So hi guys, today's video we're going to do the CCNA review question, which is consists of questions from chapter 1 to chapter 11, and I will explain to you the why it become the answer, and here's the PowerPoint presentation for the questions for all the chapters. So uh, let's start. So for the first what are the three characteristics of peer-to-peer network? So here's the choices: better security, easy to create, lacks of centralized administration, less cost to implement, and scalable. So the answer for this one is the first one is easy to create, then lacks centralized administration and less cost to implement. So why? It is because network devices and dedicated servers are not required. Peer-to-peer networks are easy to create, less complex, and have lower costs. So peer-to-peer network also have no centralized administration, so they are less secure, not scalable, and those devices acting about client and server may perform slower. So let's move on for the next one. So which devices perform the functions of determining the path that messages should take through internet? So firewall, web server, DSL modem, and router. So the answer for this one is the router. So why? So a router is used to determine the path that the messages should take through the network. So a firewall is used to filter incoming and outgoing traffic. So a DSL modem is used to provide internet connection for a home or an organization. So that's why the answer for this one is the router. This is because it's used to determine the path that the message should take through the network, and it all connected to the questions. So a router. So what are the two functions of end devices on a network? So first, they originate the data that flows through the network. They filter the flow of the data, enhance security. Um, they are interface between humans and the communication network. They provide the channel over which the network message travel. So for this one, we have two. The first one is they originate the data that flows through the network, and the second one are they are the interface between humans and the communication network. So why? So end devices originate the data that flows through the network. Intermediary devices direct data over alternate paths in the event of link failures and filter the flow of data to enhance security. So network media provides the channel through which networks messages travel. So that's the explanation behind this answer. So the second one is what security violation would cause most amount of damage to the life of a home user. So we have here DOS or DDoS, denial of service to your email server, worms and viruses in your computer, capturing of personal data that leads to identity theft, and spyware that leads to a spam emails. So, what security violation would cause most amount of damage to the life of a home user? So, for the answer for this one is capturing of personal data that leads to identity theft. So why? So on a personal PC, denial of service to server, worms and viruses, and spyware Receiving spam emails can be annoying, invasive, and frustrating. However, identity theft can be devastating and life-altering. Security solutions should be in a place on all personal devices to protect against this type of the threat. So, the security violation would cause most amount of damage to the life of a home user is the capturing of personal data that leads to identity theft. Because if it's captured your all personal data, it may lead you to uh, the personal loss, or it will lead you to um, ident identity, like purchasing some item in the online store using your identity. So that's the most amount of damage to the life of user. So next one is, what is the function of the kernel of an operating system? So here is these choices. First is, it is an applications that allow the initial configuration of a Cisco devices. The second one is the kernel provision hardware resources to meet software requirements. And the last is, it's an it's provide a user interface that allows user to request a specific task. So the question is, what is the function of the kernel of an operating system? So I think that the kernel provision hardware resource to meet software requirements is the answer. Why? Because operating system function with the shell, kernel, and the hardware. So the shell interface with the users, allowing them to request a specific task from the device. So the kernel provision resources from the hardware to meet software requirements. As I've said, the answer for these questions is the hardware function by using drivers and their underlying electronics. The hardware represent the physical components of the device. So that's why I explain what that the function of the kernel of an operating system is to meet the hardware resources to meet software requirements. So, which command allows a user to return to the previous level in the command hierarchy? So we have here N, Control C, and exit. So for this one, the command that allows a user to return to the previous level in the command hierarchy is the exit command. Why? Because End and Control C return the user to the privileged exit mode. Control C ends a command in process. Then the exit command returns the user to the previous level of the command hierarchy. So the next one is, what type of communication will send a message to all devices on a local area network? So we have here a multicast, broadcast, unicast, and oldcast. So for this one, a type of communication will send a message to all devices. It should be a broadcast. Why? Broadcast communication is a one-to-all communication. Unlike a unicast communication is one-to-one communication, then multicast communication is a one-to-many communication where the message is delivered to a specific group of hosts, and allcast is not a standard term to describe message delivery. So that's why the type of communication that will send a message to all devices is the broadcast communication. So which layer of the OSI model would a logical addresses can be encapsulated? So the choices are physical layer, data link layer, transport layer, and network layer. So for the answer for this one is the network layer. Why? Logical addresses are also known as IP addresses are encapsulated at the network layer. Physical addresses are encapsulated at the data link layer. So fault addresses are encapsulated at the transport layer. No addresses are encapsulated at the physical layer. So that's why the layer that a logical addresses be encapsulated in is in the network layer. So so what reason for physical layer protocols use frame encoding techniques? So we have here the choices are to distinguish data bits from control bits, to reduce the number of collision on the media, to identify where the frame starts and ends, to increase the media throughput. So for answering this question, we have two um, we have two answers here. The first one is to distinguish data bits from the control bits, and the second one is to identify where the frames start and end. Why? Because an encoding technique converts a string of data bits in a predefined code that can be recognized by both the transmitter and the receiver. So using predefined patterns help to differentiate data bits from the control bits and provide better media error detection. So next one is what is indicated by the term throughput. So the choices are the capacity of a particular medium to carry data, the measure of the usable data transferred across the media, the measure of the bits transferred across the media over a given period of time, the time it takes for a message to get from the sender to receiver. So what is indicated by the term throughput? It is the measure of the bits transferred across the media over a given period of time. Why? Throughput is the measure of the transfer of bits across the media over a given a period of time. So throughput is affected by a number of factors such as EMI and latency. So it is rarely matches the specified bandwidth for a network medium. The throughput measurement includes user data bits and other data bits such as overhead, acknowledging, and encapsulation. So the measure of the usable data transferred across the media is called goodput. So what are the two sizes, the minimum and maximum of an Ethernet frame? So we have here the choices 56 bytes, 64 bytes, 1024 bytes, 128 bytes, and 1518 bytes. So for the minimum of the Ethernet frame is the 64 bytes and the maximum is the 1518 bytes. Why? The minimum of Ethernet frame is 64 bytes and the maximum frame is the 1518 bytes. A network technician must know the minimum and maximum frames size in order to organize run and jumbo frames. So what statement describe Ethernet? We have here choices are it is required layer 1 and layer 2 standard for internet communications. It defines the most common LAN type in the world. And the last one is it connects multiple sites such as router located in different countries. So the statement described Ethernet, it is defined the most common LAN type in the world. So why? Ethernet is the common LAN protocol in the world. It operates at layer 1 and 2, but it not required for the internet communication. The OSI model is used to describe how networks operate and one connects multiple sites located in a different countries. So filled in the Internet Protocol version 4 or IPv4 header is used to prevent a packet from traversing a network endlessly. So the choices are sequence number, acknowledgement number, time to live, differentiate services. So the answer is time to live. Why? The value of the time to live (TTL) field in the Internet Protocol version 4 or IPv4 header is used to limit the lifetime of a packet. So the sending host sets the initial TTL value, which is decreased by 1 each time the packet is processed by a router. If the TTL field decrements to 0, the router discards the packet and sends an Internet Control Message Protocol or ICMP time exceeding message to the source IP address. The differentiated services DS field is used to determine the priority of each packet. Sequence number and acknowledgement numbers are two fields in the TCP header. So, what is one advantage that the IPv6 simplified header offers over IPv4? So the choices are smaller size header, detailed requirement for processing checksums, smaller size source and destination IP addresses, efficient packet handling. So the answer for this question is efficient packet handling. So why? So the IPv6 or Internet Protocol version 6 simplified header offers several advantages over IPv4. So there are better routing efficiency and efficient packet handling for performance and forwarding rate scalability. So no requirements for processing checksums, simplified and more efficient extensions header mechanisms as opposed to the IPv4 options field. So and a flow level field for per flow processing with no need to open the transport inner packet to identify the various traffic load. So next is which two are the components of an IPv4 addresses or Internet Protocol version 4. We have here the subnet portion, logical portion, network portion, broadcast portion, host portion. So for the question for this one is we have two choices for these questions, and the answer for these questions is the network portion and the host portion. So why? An IPv4 addresses is divided into two parts: a network portion to identify the specific network on which a host resides, and a host portion to identify a specific host on a network, and subnet mask is used to identify the length of each portion. So the next one is how many bits are in the Internet Protocol version 4 address. So we have here 64, 128, 32, and 256. So how many bits are in IPv4 addresses? So in the IPv6 is we have 64, then in IPv4 we have 32. So an IPv4 address is comprised of 4 octets of binary digits, each containing 8 bits, resulting into the 32 bits address. So that's why we have bits in IPv4. We have 32 bits in IPv4. So the next one is the two reasons a network administrator might want to create subnet. So we have here the choice: improved network performance, easier to implement security policies, reduction in number of routers needed, simplifies network design. So for this question, we have two choices for these questions. So the answer for these questions are improved network performance is the number one, and two is easier to implement security policy. That's the two reasons of a network administration may want to create subnet. So why? So for creating subnet includes reduction of overall network traffic and improvement of network performance. So subnet also allow an administrator to implement subnet-based security policies. So the number of routers or switches is not affected, and subnet do not simplify network design. So the next one is, if a network device has a mask of prefix 28, how many IP addresses are available per host on this network? So we have here the choices are 14, 16, 18, 32, 254, and 256. So for this one, if we have a mask of 28, how many IP addresses? So it should be 14. Why? Um, I think a prefix 28 mask in the same as subnet mask as 255, 255.255.240. This leave for host bit. With 4 host bit, 16 IP addresses are possible, but one address represents the subnet number of one address represent the broadcast address. So 14 addresses can then be used to assign a network devices. So next is, which two characteristics are associated with the UDP sessions? So the choices are, transmitted data segments are tracked, received data is acknowledged data packets are retransmitted, and destination devices receive traffic with minimal delay. So the two characteristic that associated with UDP sessions is the destination devices receive with traffic with minimal delay, and receive data is acknowledged. So why? TCP Transmission Control Protocol is provide tracking of transmission data segments. Destination devices will acknowledge receive data. Source devices will retransmit acknowledged data. So while UDP is, destination devices will not acknowledge received data, header use very little overhead and cause minimal delay. So that's why the two characteristic associated with UDP session is the receive data, acknowledge the destination devices receive traffic with minimal delay, and received data is unacknowledged. So next is, which layer in the TCP IP layer is used for formatting, compressing, and encrypting data? So the choices are session, internetwork, presentation, application, network access. So the answer for these questions is the application. So why? The application layer of the TCP IP model performs the function of three layers of the OSI model: application, presentation, and sessions. So the application layer of the TCP IP model is the layer that provides the interface between the application. So it is responsible for formatting, compressing, and encrypting data, and it used to create and maintain dialogue between source and destination application. So next is, which network design consideration would be more important to a large corporation than a small business? So the choices are internet router, firewall, low port switch, redundancy. So for this question, the answer is redundancy. So why? So small businesses today do need internet access and use an internet router to provide this need. So a switch is required to connect the two host devices and any IP phones or network device such as printer or scanner. So the switch may be integrated into the router, and a firewall is needed to protect the business computing assets. And redundancy is not normally found in very small companies, but slightly larger small companies might use for density redundancy or have redundant internet provide links. So that's all the questions for the review questions for the CCNA. So hope you guys learn something about this video, and hope it will help you to pass your uh, activity and exams for the CCNA 1, which is the it consists the from chapter 1 to chapter 11. So hope you guys learn something. Hope you guys learn something about this video, and thank you for watching. So God bless you all, and goodbye.